Bromley have had a fantastic start to life in the Football League, a top half finish in League Two after winning the National League playoffs the year before. So what are the next steps required then for the Ravens? Because they have a manager in Andy Woodman who's very ambitious. He set a target of 71 points in their maiden season up, which they didn't quite hit last year. So what's required for the South of London club to make that next step? Looks like they're going to need 5 or 6 additions. But also, can they keep hold of Michael Cheek, the top goal scorer in League Two, and replace, of course, their star Crystal Palace loanee, Danny Imre? Plenty to get stuck into then on this Summer Deep Dive. Yes, welcome along to EFL Debate. You could do us a massive favour by getting subscribed to us on YouTube and on Spotify. That would, excuse me, that would help us out a lot. For now, get subscribed to us. This is part of a series of summer deep dives between mid-June and mid-July. Get subscribed to us and look forward to more episodes to come. For now, I'm delighted to be joined by Bromley fan Georgie Weaver. Good evening, Georgie. Thanks so much for joining us. You must be really happy with the direction that Bromley have gone in over the last few years.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been, like you say, last few years really have been just sort of, an upward trajectory. Really, it's been quite incredible. Even from now going on 10 years from when we got promoted from the National League South into the National League. I don't think many people would have thought we'd have been in League Two by now and had a really successful year, I think, from our standards. So yeah, I think it's definitely high spirits amongst Bromley fans at the moment, which is really nice. Oh, you're muted. Sorry, Gab. Sorry, I think you're muted still. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Right.
So Bromley have had a great. I think having a manager who sets really high standards, Woodman, has that been a key facet of his management?
I think so. Yeah, I was probably one of the people. There was others of us last year who I still stand by. Just wanted to survive, and I think that is something that Woodman doesn't necessarily say open. It's never just we want to survive. It's we want to get top half. We want playoffs. We want even now there's talk of we can get playoffs or we can go up into League One. It's never just sort of stationary. And I think that is definitely part of Woodman's managerial and the club's sort of whole philosophy at the moment. So yeah, I think it's quite nice because it gets you feeling quite confident. It has, for some people it means they've got quite high expectations, but it's quite nice to have sort of when you've then had a successful season and then going into the next one.
It seems like the club, Georgie, definitely benefit from the location in that there's actually quite a large catchment area in the sort of border between South London and Kent kind of area. But also you're close to home for a lot of people. So we'll come on to the signing of Mitch Pinnock, but people like him and Ben Thompson, I'm not sure they would have gone with respect for the size of the club or particularly because you are quite a modestly sized club with a history. It's always been in non-league, but it's that geographical pull and maybe a few quid behind you to maybe make that pull for players.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got, obviously there can be a slight negative. There's a lot of clubs around us, but yeah, definitely. I mean, the proximity of, like you say, London, and even if someone lives, a player lives sort of North London or just outside of London, it's quite an easy commute in the grand scheme of things. And yeah, if you've got, if you're a team like Torquay or Exeter, you've got that. You just don't have that in the same way, and it's far more. It must be far more difficult. So yeah, like you say, it's someone like Ben Thompson and just. Having those sort of league clubs, more established league clubs around us, I think has definitely helps in terms when we're looking at players to bring in.
How we've spoken about Andy Woodman being very ambitious. Is the ownership regime very on the same page with that in terms of where they want to take the club?
Yeah, definitely. Excuse me, our owner and chairman, Robin Stanley-Gleaves, has spoken for numerous years now about going up, and you kind of never think it's going to happen. Like, maybe I'm a bit more on the pessimistic side or just realistic, but you sort of think, oh, maybe. But yeah, they were always like, yeah, this is going to happen, and now they're like, one day it'll be League One. They're very much, they sort of match that ambition, and you never know what's going to happen, and things can change so quickly in football. But for the time being, yeah, that's definitely where the sort of aspiration is.
Yeah. What do you feel like the structure of the club is in a good place? Is it very much Andy Woodman kind of calls the shots and has a lot of operational autonomy, or are there sort of people there behind the scenes who kind of help him out a bit?
I think so. It was this season we had Alan Dunn as assistant manager, who left this season. I think he was quite instrumental, but I think Andy Woodman is clearly someone who has a lot of contacts within the game. He was at Arsenal and Newcastle and things, and I think that does seem to really help. We've had a few kind of Arsenal links over the past few years, and I think definitely, yeah, he's one that really gets people involved and has that kind of sort of that ability to do that, which is really good.
Yeah, one thing I did say when I was muted was I think one thing I really like about Andy Woodman is that he seems like he's a bit of a perfectionist, and I've seen teams. I'll use Accrington Stanley as an example. When teams have massively punched above their weight in at this level before. Stanley had a manager in John Coleman who set very high standards, and if they'd won 4-0 but 4-1, but they conceded a bad goal at the end, they'd be furious at conceding that bad goal. Now I get a similar vibe with Andy Woodman in that if you get an 8 out of 10, he'll be looking for a 9 or a 10 kind of thing.
Yeah, that's really true. Often you listen to a post-match interview, and like you say, it can be like a really good 2-1 win at home, and he'll one of the first things he might say is, "Well, that goal we conceded." It's and I think that partly comes from he's a goalkeeper by trade, and he loves a clean sheet. So it's definitely that perfectionist within him, which is really nice to see. A lot of you kind of. Or we might come away and be like, "Oh, that was a really good away point," but might see it different, and I think that also helped in terms of like knowing we were safe from relegation quite early on. I think that kind of those high standards helped with that. Obviously, even when it wasn't mathematical, you sort of think, yeah, we're going to be fine here, because there's just those high standards sort of being wanting to achieve, which is really good.
Yeah, absolutely. So having a look at the squad, I mean, at the moment, I'm thinking the right 5 or 6 additions would be required to sort of push you up that next level. Georgie, is that how the fan base is feeling at the moment?
I think so. Yeah, I think we've not necessarily made loads of signings yet, but when our retainers came out, the majority of the players were signed on already, or we didn't. Yeah, we lost a few, and probably the loanees is where we're going to have the biggest hit at the moment. But yeah, I think just a few more, and it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, if we can, how much further we can progress, and we weren't that far off playoffs in the grand scheme of things last year. The season just gone, so yeah, you never know how League Two is going to go, and there's been a lot of signings, really good signings across the league. But yeah, I think with a few more, we can be up there again.
I think when you came up, it wasn't a squad with loads of Football League pedigree necessarily, but one player who did have that was Grant Smith. I think he's played at this level before with Stevenage. So did his higher league sort of class show last season?
I think so. Yeah, I did see that. He's for me one of the best. Not necessarily the best goalie in the league, but definitely up there. And he's a goalie that I just don't think really tends to let you down, and you can sort of rely on. So yeah, you never kind of thought, oh, we need to look at replacing him when we got promoted. And yeah, I think he's been really consistent throughout the year, and was definitely up there for one of our players of the season. So yeah, really was impressed with him this season.
Yeah, tough for somebody like Sam Long when you've got Grant Smith ahead of him, because even if you're doing everything right in training, it's hard to get into that 11, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think we played Newport away on a Tuesday night in about April, and Sam Long played and had a great game. But yeah, there's just especially in that goalie position, you don't get subbed off in the same way as you do as a midfielder or someone else. So yeah, really tough for him. But yeah, Grant Smith definitely wasn't going to be dropped throughout the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I've kind of drawn the squad up in a 3-4-2-1 shape, but I know Andy Woodman sort of changed formation a lot last season. So I'm kind of working on that basis in terms of how the squad looks. Talk to me about the season Omar Suwunmi had as that. Typically, is that right centre half in a 3, although he did play in other roles?
Yeah, I think when Omar came back, it was sort of it was always a bit unsure of how a player's going to do when they've gone elsewhere and come back. But I thought overall was really consistent. Again, we had quite a lot of changes in those sort of back centre back positions, but Omar was like pops up with the goals as well as goal contributions, which is even with Michael Cheek, you still need others to be getting you goals across the season. So yeah, that was
just about.
yeah, don't need too many more, but we did need some. So yeah, I think that was really great from Omar to see, and it's just to have someone of that sort of stature at the back is just it's really it fills you with confidence in your defence anyway.
Well, I also imagine from set pieces as well, he's a great reference point because he's 6'6" or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, and even if it's not like a goal or it might be on target or something, but you just feel like it's a real threat to have. So he's a real threat to have, which is really good.
Yeah, well, hopefully you can continue to be a strong set piece side next season.
Yeah.
I am wondering a little bit though, Georgie, about that middle centre back role, because Byron Webster isn't getting any younger at the moment. Is there a possibility that Omar Suwunmi could actually move into that middle centre half role and then somebody else comes in on the right?
I think so, yeah, because like you say, I'm a big Byron Webster fan, obviously, but for the last few years, we've sort of said, he's not getting any younger, and it's a long season, for any player, and I think to play every game is difficult. So yeah, I think because we had Callum Reynolds leave sort of midway through the season, so I think definitely looking at getting someone in that position, I think would just as you sort of back up and to rotate the squad then a little bit, so especially when you've got FA Cup and Carabao Cup and everything would be really good.
When in that regard, it probably helps the versatility of Deji Elariwe, because he's somebody who could play on either side of a back three as well. So I think he came through at Charlton, so a decent academy that he came through. What do you made of his first season at Hayes Lane?
Yeah, I've been really impressed. So he was with us on loan previously. I can't remember if it was last year, the sort of season before, but been really impressed. I think he sometimes struggles with a bit of a few injuries, so it's difficult to get that consistency. And probably the same with quite a lot of our centre back trios. There's been quite a lot of mixing up, but I think keep hold of him next year, which seems like we're going to, and I think he can just continue to develop, and he's a big the people at the club really like him, so and so do I. So yeah, hopefully he'll be continue to improve.
Are you hoping you'll have a bit more luck with keeping a more consistent back three next year, Georgie? Because from what I looked at the sort of the who scored and the numbers who started, it did seem like the back three changed quite a lot over the course of the season. And sometimes Woodman even went with the back four, which he didn't so much in the National League campaign.
Yeah, I think that's because we've had and again, it's sort of the versatility of some of the players. We have Carl Jenkinson as well, who again then struggled with injury at some point. Kamal Grant, who's now gone back to Millwall, I believe. But yeah, it was difficult because they all had their sort of strengths, and like I say, Byron might then not play, but then he plays a game and it's really strong at the back. So yeah, I think it's always one of the things I've thought is, or do we need that sort of more consistency? But I say we didn't leak loads of goals, so I think it's just sort of sometimes seeing how it goes. But I think maybe bringing in another centre back could be good to then see in pre-season how it is.
Yeah, I mean, preferably a left footer because I don't think there's actually anyone who's left footed in the defence. You've got Ferran to come back from his loan spell
Yeah.
in non-league in the National
Hmm.
League last season. You've got Tobin and Ellery Way can play on the left, but nobody left footed by the looks of things.
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
imagine that's going to be right at the top of the priority list.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it seems like that.
Yeah. I'm excited. What do you think about some of the youngsters? Tobin's come through the academy. You've got
Mhm.
Morali as well. Is it coming off the back of some loan spells at step 3 level?
Mhm.
Is that a part of the club that excites you after the number of professional contracts handed out to those youngsters?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's always really good to, they might not say necessarily start, games at the beginning of the season, but it's really good to see. We had Kellen Fisher who went on to, who's done really well at Norwich. We've had so Nathan Paul Lovely, who's got some game time at the end of the season, and got a couple of really good performances. And I think it's really it's really nice to see, especially when you've kind of got that maybe within the League Two experience around them. And seeing where they can end up, and we sometimes they might go on loan to Cray Wanderers or somewhere else, or like you say, that sort of step 3 level. So I think that's really good for them, but always nice if they kind of come back and we can see where they fit into the squad.
Yeah, hopefully some opportunities for those in pre-season.
Mm-hmm.
You signed Taylor Ferran from Arsenal last
Mm-hmm.
summer, and I was actually expecting him to be for that kind of caliber of signing, somebody who was playing for their under 21 squad. I would
Mm-hmm.
have kind of expected him to be in among your first team squad last season, but he was loaned out to someone in the National League South, I think. Are you
Yeah.
expecting him to be very much part of the first team squad this year?
It's difficult because as at Bromley we've not actually seen that much of him sort of
Right.
overall. So I think I think again it depends maybe if we sign another centre back and some more defenders, whether or not he gets that chance to sort of play. I imagine in pre-season he will, and we can then see how that fits in. And so with Kamal Grant going as well, there's a bit of an opening there as well. And like we said with Byron Webster, maybe not playing as many games as he did last season. So hopefully it'll be a good chance to sort of see how he does in League Two.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the one thing that does excite me about the defence. You've got players like Ellery Way, Morali, and Ferran and Tobin, I guess, as well. Certainly Ferran and Ellery Way. These are players who are in a good position to continue their development. So hopefully that could be an exciting facet of the team next season.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You mentioned Paul Laughley in terms of the right
Mhm.
wing back spot. You've obviously got Carl Jenkinson there as
Mhm.
well. But it looks like, I mean, Danny Imray, who's on loan from Crystal Palace, is going to be tough to replace, isn't he?
Yeah, I think that's and I'm sure sort of speak for a lot of Bromley fans. One of the main kind of gaps that we're going to see straight away. I mean, yeah, just such a standout player from last season. Just really. I mean, he. I think what was so nice as well was he really gave everything for and sometimes with loan players it can kind of work both ways, but it was just was incredible to watch and just a really exciting player. Every ball in the box was, looked like someone could get on the end of it. So yeah, that's really that, say Nathan Paul Lovely's, I think a really good option, but I just think it's not, we need just something else to sort of really replace Danny Imray.
Yeah, absolutely. And then left wing back is interesting because I've actually written 3 names down there,
Mm-hmm.
but none that yeah, I also think that it's an area where you could
Yeah.
recruit because you've got Marcus Eiffel, who's Phil Eiffel's son, so good luck
Yeah.
to him. Brooklyn
Mm-hmm.
Ilunga, formerly of MK Dons, and
Mm-hmm.
Start Topolodge, who was part of the National League playoff winning squad.
Yeah.
But again, you feel like that's an area where you'd maybe think one more to come in.
Yeah, exactly. And I really liked Bez when he was with us, but say has sort of fell out of favour a little bit. And I think I'm pretty sure he's at Sutton and the season just gone. So yeah, not quite sure he'll be the one to sort of to fill that role completely. And yeah, Ifil and Ilunga have looked really good. We didn't see as much of Ifil, but Brooklyn Ilunga I really liked when he came on. But just you don't see sort of enough. It's not necessarily starting games and getting 90 minutes. So I think that's a position that we could definitely look to fill a little bit more.
Yeah, it seems, Georgie, like the way that you play, the wing backs carry a huge part of the
Mm.
overall attacking threat. So if you can get the right wing backs, then that's going to make a huge difference,
Hmm.
because they're going to be the ones that you're going to be relying on to get forward and create.
Yeah, definitely. That is sort of say in the last few years, really. That, like you say, really is how we sort of push forward and attack. Really, is through those wing back positions.
Mm. Hopefully Andy Woodman can use his contacts in the loan market.
Yeah.
Um, so central midfield then, Jude Arthur's. He's on the younger side, isn't he, Jude
Mm.
Arthur? So somebody who's developed nicely with the club over the last few years.
Yeah, definitely. And Jude's, and I say obviously the whole team did well, but I think for me, Jude's one of those that it was almost like most improved, like just really stepped up to League Two. I think, more than sort of I was necessarily expecting, and just really looked at home in the squad. And like you say, I think we signed him sort of when he was quite young from Gillingham's academy. So yeah, really nice to see him, sort of from the National League up until League Two, and really performing well. And again, getting a few goals here and there, which was really nice to see.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he can kick on again.
Mm.
Who do you think that the main sort of partner for Jude Arthur's next season is currently in the building?
I think so. I think sort of again our sort of midfielders sort of mix and match a little bit. I'm a big fan of Ben Thompson. I think that sort of
Mm.
having him play alongside Jude Arthurs, I quite like. So, but I think a central midfield, that sort of either central midfielder or excuse me, attacking midfielder is always a signing that I think fans are keen on. Often the midfield gets looked at, and I think something that might be someone that we then bring in.
Yeah, I think with Ben, it's interesting you like Ben Thompson deeper, because
Mm.
I tend to think of him as quite a forward-thinking
Yeah.
midfielder, and maybe he can carry a threat kind of driving forward from a deep position.
Hmm.
Um, but then whether you look for somebody who's a bit more of a holding midfielder to come in, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I think that could be it, say, because often you're kind of left with that sort of position, and like you say, if Ben Thompson is going a bit more forward, and he does have that he'll take a shot from anywhere, Ben Thompson basically, and quite often it is on target. So yeah, I think if you've got him kind of going forward a bit more, it is sometimes quite nice, to have someone like you say is that bit more holding midfielder.
Mm. What did you make of Lewis Lee? I think he was formerly Preston North End
Mhm.
Academy. Did he make an impression in his first season? I think he only started 3 games, didn't he?
He did, yeah, and he was. I think previously he was on loan with us again for like a few, for a bit of the National League, and I was really impressed sort of in that first kind of bit. Again, this season didn't necessarily have that impact, and when it's such a there's such such a big competition for places, and kind of sending players off on loan. It's unfortunately he just didn't had a couple of games and then just didn't get any more chances. So I think he's got that ability again. Really good like balls in the box. But it'll be interesting to see what if he if it's out on loan again or something.
Yeah, so a big season for him.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of at the moment, I'm looking at it as another 2 attacking midfield positions. But one thing
Hmm.
I'm really excited about is the signing of Mitch Pinnock from
Yeah.
Northampton, because this is somebody who was quite a key part of their journey.
Mm.
Promotion contender for a couple of seasons at this level, mid-table in League One in their first season up. So that's the kind of caliber of player, and his deliveries are really good, and that should add to the set piece threat that we've spoken about with
Yeah.
players like Woodman getting forward from the back.
Yeah, definitely. So more often than not, you kind of get signings, and I don't necessarily get sort of overexcited by them, but this one felt like a big, a big signing. I say he was with us previously for a very short period of time, but definitely a name that you sort of hear about, even when we were, in the National League, you kind of hear about in sort of the EFL circles. So I think it's a great signing for us, and as I say, I think it's sort of our only one so far, but it's definitely a good one, and I'm really excited to see him back and see what he can do.
Yeah, you'd always rather quality over quantity, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly, and actually a position that like say you need and works for the squad, which it feels like he would regardless. So.
Mm. I mean, again, so with Ben Thompson, because if we take it as 3-4-2-1, you've got
Hmm.
the option of playing Thompson in a deeper midfield role alongside Jude Arthurs, perhaps,
Yeah,
or and that would allow Corey Whiteley to
yeah.
be that regular, or you say Thompson's actually going to start further forward alongside Pinnock as one of those two number 10s. So an intriguing dilemma there for Andy Woodman.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, as I said, we sort of would mix it up anyway during the season. But yeah, it might depend on if we're at, at home, or sometimes, if you kind of go away and sort of mix out that formation. But it definitely feels like there's a lot of options. And then saying, and Corey Whiteley can be quite versatile as well. So yeah, it does seem like it would just be that sort of one up front.
Would you be looking for a bit more productivity from somebody like Corey Whiteley? Because other than Cheek, he was probably one of the more prominent featuring attacking players. Yeah. And I think he's only got 4 or 5 goal involvements. Is that something you'd like him to try and add to next season?
Yeah, definitely. I say Corey's a real fan favourite, and like I said, everyone, as a squad did remarkably well this season. But I think a few of us sort of said, maybe Corey just kind of didn't kind of have that sort of obvious, you're right, kind of goals in the same way, or definitely still like help, was there, and I think kind of maybe went under the radar a lot, but maybe just a few more goals from him would because when Corey's on form again, he can just shoot from anywhere and it goes in. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see that next season.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And then Michael Cheek, fantastic season. He's made that step up brilliantly, as strikers often seem to do from a lower division to a higher one, and Cheek certainly done that. But I think what I think Andy Woodman's often been very keen to point out is that it's not just the goals with Michael Cheek; it's also what he does for the team, even in his own penalty area.
Yeah, I was to say, I think us as Bromley fans know it, but sometimes you're right, you can be away and not to counter something, and it's it's a corner to the other team, and he's the first to head it away, and we'll just say, yeah, that was Cheek again. It just contributions everywhere, and to do that and to get the goals that he got is just I think quite incredible. I think a lot of us knew that he'd do well, but I don't think I thought he'd be winning the Golden Boot this season. So he really does just kind of perform all over the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, do you think the fact that he is in the twilight years of his career works in your favour in terms of keeping him, in the sense that his appeal, I would say, higher up might be a bit more limited, because League One clubs aren't going to look at Michael Cheek and think we can develop him loads and sell him on for a bigger fee. That's not really. But then I think there's going to be big budgeted League Two clubs that would think we wouldn't mind having the division's top goal scorer from last season. So how would you sort of assess the state of play with regards to Michael Cheek and whether he'll stay?
Yeah, I think I don't want it to be, I don't want to say sort of famous last words. I think I've always been, relatively confident that, that we'll keep him. Like, say, in the National League, I just thought, you kind of, even though he's done so well in League Two, just didn't feel like he necessarily would go. And like you say, I think League One is still that just step too far. I think, like say, for his age and what clubs would think. And I think in terms of League Two, obviously, if someone comes and there's more money or anything involved, then you don't want to hold anyone back. But I think location, again, probably helps us in a different way, because even this upcoming season, League Two is still not, there's not too many teams around us, and I think
Gillingham, you don't want Michael Cheek at all. He's not for you.
Just Gillingham. If they could stay away, that'd be great. Which actually, I think he, I can't see him going, anywhere up north and sort of Midlands. As I say, this could be famous last words, but hopefully not. So I think I just it's difficult to see him going to another League Two club, when we were, did quite well last season. So we'll, fingers crossed, but I think he's quite happy at Bromley. I'd like so hopefully we'll be okay.
I mean, I hope so too, but I'm also quite mindful that if you're a 33-year-old, I think roughly, that spent your whole career in non-league, and you're your League Two's Golden Boot winner, and this could be the only time, and somebody could offer you a 2-year contract and treble your salary that would help you go into the next chapter of your career, whatever that looks like. I could also understand how that might be quite persuasive. So
definitely, like I say, I mean, Gillingham comes to mind again a little bit, because you think, they could kind of be pushing on, new manager, new kind of, with ambition, and you wouldn't blame him, but let's just, you know, and I think that was the thing, you know, obviously, you know, he got top goal scorer and then he got League Two Player of the Year, and you just think, okay, no more attention on him now. So,
you've had your time in the sun.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, fingers crossed. I mean, yeah. So at the moment, what I've said is I think a left-footed centre half, ideally someone who can play on the left of back three, wing backs on either side, possibly an experienced midfielder to play alongside Jude Arthurs and keep a lid on the midfield. Maybe one more option in those sort of attacking areas, and possibly another striker. Although you have got a lot of strikers at the moment, haven't you?
We do, and say striker. It's an odd one for us because I think that's something, kind of going back to Michael Cheek, is he doesn't get injured. You know, again, touch wood, either really, you know, in all the years he's been at Bromley, it's been minimal. But because we do play that with that one sole striker up front quite a lot, and then we'll bring a striker in, and you know, they don't necessarily get the chance to kind of, you know, maybe in the way they would in other teams. So we've got Marcus Denanga still, who got injured really early on last season. So it'll be interesting sort of see what he can do. But you sort of do feel like, maybe another striker, but I say it's quite a difficult position with Michael Cheek, to be honest.
It's whether Andy Woodman's good. I mean, you have got Nick Kabamba there, who was part of Barnett's National League title winning squad in the first half of last season. You've also got Sol Kader, who I think did quite well for the under-18. So there are options there. It's just that I think if Cheek went, it would be difficult to replace him.
I was going to say it'd be a sort of a different story, but of course, Kabamba, who again had a difficult start to his Bromley career. You know, he's trying to get that first goal, but then, you know, I think it was a goal everyone was really, really happy to see, because, you know, you obviously just want these strikers to do well. And say it must, you know, Michael Cheek's an incredible striker, but say then people don't necessarily get the chance to get the full 90 minutes or start a game in the same way. So it'd be interesting to see if we do bring someone in, or like say see what Sol Kader can do. Again, maybe in sort of the EFL trophy, or give him a chance there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are your ambitions? Because when I asked you about your ambitions for Bromley last season, I got the same answer every time, which is let's get to 50 points and survive. I mean, are you, from your point of view, from the fan base's point of view, is that expectation or ambition nudged that little bit higher after a top half finish?
I think probably across the fan base as a whole, you know, maybe people are thinking, okay, can we get, you know, a little bit closer to playoffs, or, you know, even, you know, just to be in a bit, you know, even to be in a bit more of a chance, because say towards the end of our season, it's slightly odd when you're sort of, you know, you're mathematically safe and you kind of have a few odd results. Say first for me, still stay up. Still my first ambition. I don't want to sort of second seat, you know, I can't remember if Sutton went down in the second or third
season.
Third season. So I didn't want to write them off in their second, but it is just that, you know, you look at Oldham and Barnet and you think they're going to do well. And it can be very difficult to sort of see who's not going to do well when you don't want to kind of get overconfident. And, you know, you don't know, again, if Michael Cheek's going to get 25 goals, you assume not. So I think, although, it would be nice, again, another top half finish and say maybe a bit of a playoff push, but say if we can survive another season, I'll still be happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I'd be really curious about, Georgie, is one thing I'm looking at to try and I've got to make my 1 to 24 predictions in late July. Kind of look at where each club is on each category and kind of use that to basically assess each club. So if I throw you a category and then you give me a number between 1 or 10 for where you think probably are at. So the one I'd start with is ownership.
I'd say sort of 9 out of 10. Yeah.
9 out of 10.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Infrastructure.
I'd say 8 out of 10. We're currently building a new stand, and again, we're never going to be the biggest ground in the league, but it's we're always making improvements. So.
Okay. 8 for infrastructure.
Yeah.
Playing budget.
I'd say. Going to say about 7. So we're definitely one that, you know, in the bottom half of that, but we make the most of it.
Yeah, for sure. Management.
I'm gonna go 9 out of 10 for that. So
Nine.
it's going well so far.
You like Andy Woodman.
Yeah.
Goalkeeper, Grant Smith, of course.
Gonna say again a solid 9 out of 10. You know, just consistent last season, and yeah, didn't let us down.
Defence.
I'm gonna go with 7. I think on that, just because, as I say, I think there could be quite a few changes. You know, I think there's a bit of a it's at that stage where there's a bit of a change going on with that.
Okay. Midfield. I'll include the wing backs with
yeah. Again, going to say a 7 again, just because I think, you know, with that although we're keeping the sort of core, just, you know, with a few changes, sort of see where we're at with that.
Attack.
I'm going to go. I'm trying to think whether 8.5 or 9. I feel like having Michael Cheek, I've got to go. I'm going to go 8. I'll hold judgment on that, but yeah, see where we go.
We'll say depth. We'll say on the assumption that you bring in another 5 or 6 additions between now and the end of the window.
I'm going to go an 8 with that. I think we do have quite like you say, a few more additions, and so we've kept majority of the squad, especially those who played a lot. So I'll say that.
Okay, great. Squad stability.
I'd say again, I'd say about an 8. I think it's I say keeping that core and, you know, just bringing a few new additions. It seems to be relatively stable.
Nice. Okay. What was the other one? Team spirit.
Again, I'm going to go. I'll go 9. I think team spirit will be high after last year. Obviously we had the FA Cup third round against Newcastle as well, so I think that sort of all added to just general sort of, you know, around the team. We never had a really sort of low, you know, kind of a really bad run, so quite consistent over the whole season.
Okay, just a few more to go. Growth potential of the squad. Players you think are going to be a lot better this season than they were last season?
I think in terms of like someone who can have a bit more, I think Kabamba and sort of maybe another sort of striker just to sort of get a few more goals in, I'd say.
Okay, so 7 would you go
for?
Yeah,
say 7. Yeah.
Okay, fitness.
I'd say we stayed quite fit. You know, you didn't kind of, maybe towards the end when you go away to Port Vale and lose 5-0, you can sort of maybe tell you're struggling a bit. But I'll say a 7 for that as well, I think.
7 for fitness. What's the other one? And quality. It's the final one.
I think I'm going to say 8 for that. Again, let's say I think in terms of our sort of playing budget compared to others, and just some of the caliber of players we've got, I think that's a fair score.
Okay, final quick fire questions then. What's the biggest reason to believe in Bromley right now?
I would say sort of linking to team spirit and sort of just the general kind of vibe and belief around the club. We don't, you know, one of the things is we don't know we're beaten. So, you know, we believe we can challenge with everyone else. And that's a reason to believe. Biggest
reason for doubt?
Danny Imre is quite a big. I think the impact of losing Danny Imre and just trying to replace him, and maybe as well just the doubt that Michael Cheek may not be scoring 25 goals again next season. He may do, he may not.
He might score 30.
He might.
Yeah. Okay, and just roughly, what's your level of optimism? I mean, from the answers there, it does sound like you have also, as much as you would be happy with survival, you also have a lot of belief in this group, and you feel like you've got a chance of being in with a shot at the playoffs next season. Yeah, definitely. I think the way this season went, I do believe, you know, that we could kind of be in with that chance, or say to be up and around there towards the end of the season, which I don't think I necessarily would have thought at all this time last year, to be honest. So yeah, I think there is definitely that chance. But as I say, I think, you know, you can start off and not have the start you want, and you don't want to get dragged into anything. So yeah, I never want to be too optimistic, just in case. Yeah, you never know. I can see how you'd sort of be quite stay up first, get to 50 points.
Yeah, and see where we go.
Exactly. Yeah, Georgie, thanks so much for talking to us. Really appreciate your time. Best luck for Bromley for the rest of the season.
No worries.
Thanks for watching this at home. If you've enjoyed this podcast, you can get subscribed to us on YouTube and on Spotify. That would help us out a lot. And we'll see you again for another Summer Deep Dive very soon.